Welcome back, guys. This is Kimberly Graham, your co-host of the Affluent Marriage Podcast, and we're so excited to have you here for the continuation of our previous episode. Before we get started, I want to make sure that you guys know that you can follow us and converse with us at the Affluent Marriage Pod on Instagram. That's where you can find us to connect with us, like our content, share our content, any of those types of things, but we also want to hear your stories there as well. So excited for the new stuff that you're going to learn from today's episode, and without further ado, let's get back to the show.
I want you to strap in here for a second because we're nowhere near done. I still have a lot to say because this Millionaire Blueprint episode is all about how to work with your partner to create a budget. And what you've heard so far is our mock budget, right?
Yes.
Kind of.
Well, it's a real budget.
It's a real budget.
It's a real budget from our first month.
Mock conversation. It was a fake conversation of us now talking to what it was like then and just going through it and just reliving that.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about how to create a budget with your partner.
Okay, let's get on.
Let's do it.
Yep.
So creating a budget with your spouse is incredibly important to managing your finances as a team. Something that you can take away from the conversation that Kim and I had is that we scheduled a meeting. We set aside some time to sit down and to discuss our finances. We chose the time when we were both able to be present and focused to take on that task. Mm-hmm. So what did we do?
So we went to Starbucks. Because that got me into the conversation.
It got you to buy in.
So you have to, I see so many people who are like, well, I can't get my spouse on board. It's just, he doesn't want to talk about money. She doesn't want to talk about money. It's not something that they desire. Don't talk about money then. Talk about the dreams, right? You got to get them to buy in to the dreams. We saw a TikTok the other day that Daniel and I did a little bit of a duet on, or I guess we stitched it. I guess that's the proper term. But I think this guy was petitioning to his wife to go to a football game for Thanksgiving, an NFL game. And so he had this whole PowerPoint and he was like, I'm so excited to do this bucket list with you. And here are some things that I know that we've discussed that we'd love to do as bucket list items. But one bucket list item that I'm really excited for, or that I really want to do, is this, which is going to an NFL game. And he explained it with logistics, with numbers, with all these things. And I'm like, yes, this is how we get our spouse on board. And together we start getting excited about the goal instead of the process. Because who wants to talk about the process if it's arduous and boring or But if we're talking about the goal, I'm on board. I want a house. I want the life. I want the white picket fence. I want my kid. I want that life. Yes, you do too. You want to be able to go to vacation three times a year? Me too. How are we going to get there with where we currently are? Now I'm interested. Now I'm engaged. Plus I have a mocha in my hand. Like, we can have these conversations. So yes, schedule a meeting, but don't talk about the money. Talk about the dreams first. Write them down. Get excited about that. And if that's all you do in that first meeting, that's fine. Because then what you can do is choose one of those dreams. And you know what? For extra flavor, add the spouse in. Make it their dream first. And together go after the dream that they are most excited about. And then you can start addressing the things that are in the way.
When you're in the classroom and you have a student who is stubborn or oppositional defiant disorder, and they just don't want to do something, right? We don't tell that person what to do, right? If you tell your spouse, we need to do this budget now, and they're being stubborn, they're oppositional defiant, right? Yeah. You have to present them choices, right? You don't really tell them what to do. You present them choices. You say, okay, so this student is not where I want them to be in the room. Well, you can come sit next to me, or you can go stand over here. Right? You're telling them, like, you let them have the power. Yep. So you don't have that power struggle, right?
Both of them still give you the same outcome.
Right. You're still where I need you to be, where I want you to be, but you get to choose.
Right.
And they don't fight as hard when they know, well, you're not telling me to come sit next to you. You're saying, I get to choose. Do I sit at my desk, or do I sit at the teacher's desk, or I stand over here? You know what I mean? You're giving them choices.
You're giving them choices.
So if your spouse, treat them like that oppositional defiant kid, dude. If your spouse is having their little tantrum and they don't want a budget or they don't whatever, you got to give them some buy-in, give them some choice. Be like, hey, we need to do this. Would you like to, maybe not even present it like that, but hey, do you want to do this, at Starbucks, or do you want to do this here? Or do you want to do this day, or do you want to do it that day? Do you want it this time or that time? Like, let them have that buy-in, let them have that choice. And they have to pick.
Yeah.
Right.
It even could
You're
be.
not telling them we do this now.
Right.
Or we're doing this at 7:30 tonight. Like, let them choose.
Let them choose.
Give
and
them
then
some choices.
even if you have like the list of goals that you're going after, choose a low apple or whatever you call it. Low, what do they call it?
Low hanging fruit.
That low hanging fruit goal. Something that's like very easy to attain, and find a list of those low hanging fruit like goals that you can attain. Could be saving $500 so that you can go to this fancy hotel and go away for the weekend. Get them on the board with that. Can we go do this? Like, I really want to plan this out, right? This is where we want to go. Let's plan out the whole vacation and price it out. Let's do that. Like, let's get excited about that. Here's how we're going to save enough money to get there. So choose that low hanging fruit, get that quick win underway. Then it becomes easier to get to bigger goals and bigger things going as, for both of you.
Right. But just basically don't get upset with your spouse if you're like, hey, we need to do this budget. And they're like, I'm kind of watching the game right now. Just respect that. Be like, okay, cool. Well, you let me know. Hint this or that.
Right.
This time or that time. And let them choose.
Yep.
And if they say neither time works, then present another time.
Yep.
Until they have a choice that works for them.
Right.
Schedule a meeting. Okay. The next thing you need to do is, this goes along with being honest, but with your spouse, you need to share your income. Share your income and your expenses with each other. Be honest and open about your financial situation.
That's so hard for a lot of people. But again, as we've said many times in this podcast, this is your best friend you're talking to. You've decided to live with this person, share all the ups and downs, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, for all those things. You've decided that this is the person that you're going to spend the rest of your life with, and you can't talk about money. There are bigger underlying issues that we need to discuss then. If this is hard to share your income, really discuss, really think about it. What's my intention here then? If this is my best friend that I'm going to be building this life with, is this really how I want it to be? Is this how this person wants it to be? I'm not saying that there are bigger decisions that need to be made in terms of your marital status, but I definitely think that it inquires you to have a larger conversation between you and your spouse, because that's a red flag to me.
This is foundational to a budget, right? This is literally the building blocks of your budget. You have to share your income and they have to share their income. This is like trying to build a house on an unlevel foundation, or trying to build a house on sand, right?
Yeah.
If you tried to build a structure on the beach, right? You're like, I want to build a beach house. It's going to be amazing. And you start to construct that on the sand.
It's going to fall away.
It's going to fall down. It's going to wash away. It's going to be terrible. Like, the foundation is going to suck, right? Yeah. Those beach homes, yeah, I'm sure you've seen them. They're built deep, like the stilts like that they're on, like that's built deep into the ground with concrete, with metal, with, you know, rebar, like with all that stuff. And it's like 20 feet in the air. It's 2 stories high before you even get to the house, right?
Yes, the structure is sound.
The structure is sound. The foundation is sound. You have to share your income. It is found. If you don't do this, if you leave any part of this out, your budget is broken.
Yep. You're always going to come into fights. There's always going to be dishonesty. There's always going to be, it's going to spill over into so many other parts of your life if you cannot have this conversation.
Because how does it look to say, okay, this is what I've earned this much, and I only earned $2,000 this month, and these are my expenses, and it equals out to this. But then you actually earn $2,500 or $3,000, and you come home the next day with like a Coach purse.
Yeah,
Kimberly. No, she just bought a Coach purse.
I just bought a Coach purse. I'm very, very proud of it.
If you start coming home with all this excess stuff, they're gonna be like, well, hold on, wait.
But I thought we didn't have money.
Well, our month was tight. Like, there was only $2,000 that you brought in, you said, and you just spent all this. Like, babe, we're in the net. We're negative now. Like, what do you? So your foundation is broken. Like, you don't live a life of lies. You know, you build your house on solid ground.
Yes.
Have that foundation. Have that conversation. Share your income.
And again, guys, like, be honest with yourself.
Even with the little things, right? There were times in those first couple of years where we worked 1,000 different jobs, and I would do catering services, and you would know what I'd get paid from catering.
Right.
But in that job, a lot of times you would get tips, right? The person who was like, you're doing the catering for, would be like, hey man, thank you for serving. Here's $20. Here's $50. Here's $100. Whatever it is. And those are tips that I've actually got. Like I've gotten like $50 to $100 before for working like a 1 hour, 2 hour gig. But I would share that with you, right? I'm like, oh babe, like I got an additional $100 for this gig. Like we can put that towards the loans. Like I didn't just pocket that and buy myself something nice with it. Right. Because then you would start asking questions like, whoa, like,
how did you buy this?
Babe, we get $900 every 2 weeks. Like, how did you find the money to purchase this new, video game or this new basketball or shoes or whatever?
Right. And think about that, right? This is all scriptural too. Like, do unto others as you would have them do to you. That's a golden rule. If he's doing that to me, what chance am I going to have if I'm like trying to do all this extra work and you're like, well, you just spent like, $200 on yourself? Well, then I want to spend $200 on myself.
It becomes combative.
And then it becomes combative. And then we both are doing it to each other and we're both creating excuses. Well, I just needed this. Well, I just needed that. because now you're kind of going off into la la land. So then I can go off into la la land then, right?
I deserve to treat myself.
Right. And then we're not staying focused on the goal. We're not a team anymore. Now we're going off into our own agendas. And that is not
equally yoked.
That's not being equally yoked because we've talked about that already. You're pulling into different. My gosh, it's great. So you really have to be, both of you, disciplined. There's that discipline versus motivation.
Oh, jeez.
You got to be disciplined to each other. This is my teammate. I can't let him down. He can't let me down. It's got to have that perspective.
So schedule a meeting.
Yes. And share your income.
Share your income, because that is honestly one of the most important parts of your budget.
Yeah.
Right? You base all of your expenses and your percentages and your, like, everything is based off what you earn. You need to know, are you over? Are you under? Are you right there at the money? Like, where are you at?
Yep.
And you can't know if you don't know each other's income.
Yeah.
It's kind of pivotal.
Kind of important.
So now on here, we say set financial goals. I would argue that you would tell people to do this sooner.
I would say do this sooner. This is like that buy-in part that we were having a conversation about earlier. And again, start with the dreaming phase. Just talk about your dreams over and over again. Start a Pinterest board together. Or maybe
he does not want to start a Pinterest board. He does not want to do that.
She does. Write it down. Like, get excited, right? If he wants to get an ATV, a four-wheeler, something completely outlandish that is like crazy, go there with him. Go there with her. If she wants something completely outlandish, just go there with them, because that's how you're getting them excited about the things that they're excited and passionate about.
So you need to determine your financial goals as a couple.
Yes.
That's something discuss the short-term stuff, discuss the long-term stuff, and prioritize them together, right? Yep. Make her goals, make his goals a priority, right? You need to prioritize them.
Yep.
What he wants, what he values is important to him.
Yeah. And let's talk about this though, right? Like, going back to that, like, let's just say he wants an ATV or something like that, or she wants that, trip to Cancun. So when you have these goals that you both are going after, what you can do is you can say, wow, this is really cool. That trip probably costs $3,000 or whatever, costs this much money. I think it's totally possible for us to do this, but how can we make sure we get there without no obstacles? Because we don't really have a savings account. We know that we have taxes coming up. Like, then we can talk about the obstacles and we can say, well, I wonder if we just can, funnel a little bit of money there, and then we're able to get here even faster. Well, yeah, if I can get to Cancun 10 times faster, bro, sign me up. You know what I mean? Like, it's okay to then have these little, and again, they're not little, but we can have these smaller goals that lead up to this milestone event of being able to go to this activity or do this thing or buy that thing, right? So if we put this much into our savings and this much into whatever that's coming up that is kind of boring, but it's an adulting type thing, those things are not so drab anymore because they're leading you to a bigger milestone. So you can still infuse some of those goals in the financial goals. Right.
And it takes me back to our budget from 2012, right? We only had $75 for vacation, which we used all 75 that month. But when you're dreaming, you're like, babe, would you rather save up $75 every month and buy, 10 months in, we'll have $750. We can go somewhere cute. Or would you like to pay off and sacrifice the next 2 years, pay off these loans, and then we can put $750 plus $75 every month into vacation and go somewhere really nice in just 2 months or in just, 1 month. Like, so buying into that dream, like you can have those dream conversations and then be like, okay, so how do we get there? Do we want to put a little money aside every month to get there? Or do we want to do something crazy, pay off this car loan or pay off this student loan or pay off this credit card debt? And then with that money that we save, actually allocate that to our vacations. Like, one is you get a little bit money, you put aside every month. It takes time. The other is it takes a couple years or so of sacrifice. But once that's done, like you get to go crazy with the money that you bring in.
And you're going to find a happy medium, right? With your spouse. Again, if you want to be that extreme and you want to scare their pants off, like that's one way to do it,
I
right?
mean, that's what we did.
But I mean, it is. But because I feel like we were already on track by the time we did, like, again, this April 2012, as we were talking about today, it took us probably a couple of months before we were like, listen, I'm done with this. I'm ready to be let's just be intense and just get it over with, right? Because I am that done with living this way.
Right. I think my point is you're prioritizing their dream and you're saying, hey, I hear that this is what you want. I hear you. I love that for you. I want that for you. Let's see how we can make that happen. We can do it this way, way A, which is slow and steady, or way B, it might take a little bit of time, but we can make that dream happen really fast after this is done.
And continue to do those things. Even more so. Yeah. So when you operate and you say all these different types of ways to get there, then you're able to see like, where's the person willing to like step in and buy into the plan, right? It's kind of, plan A, plan B, plan C. Which one makes sense for you? When you find one that works, then you go with it and you stick to it and you commit to it. And you might be surprised that the more that you do it, they're like, you know what, let's do this even faster because I'm tired of this. I would like to do this even faster. And you might find that that's when the extra income comes in because you have a different perspective. All that to say, set your financial goals and be willing to just be flexible in how your spouse and you guys communicate. The communication lines have to continually be open.
Right. And if you want to do it the crazy way and they want to do it the slow and steady way and you guys see differently, like what if, you just try it their way and it takes 10 months to go on that trip and you go on that trip and you're like, wow, babe, this was a really good time. I really enjoyed this. But what if we didn't have to wait 10 months next time?
Yeah.
Like what if we just had to save for 2 months and we could just have this experience every 2 months?
Right.
We can make that happen if we pay off this car payment, right? So, yes, that takes more time because you have to wait the 10 months to get them on board, but, maybe be willing to compromise, which will come up later.
Yep. The next step is to categorize your expenses. And so what we just showed you basically teaches you how to categorize your expenses, especially since page 1 was all like the necessities. So when we talk about emergency fund and using your like actual expenses, that first page is all your actual expenses you need to live, to make sure that your house is intact, to make sure that your cars are intact, right? Whereas this other 2 pages were not as important. So that's actually teaching you how to categorize your expenses. The apps are also really good at that. But when you're asking the questions, when you're looking at the app and they go, how much do you want to spend? You're like, I don't know. That's where the writing it down and understanding the percentages really does help. So categorize your expenses, use those ways, use the resources that are available to help you create those categories, and just try your very best to stick to the plan. Use any resource that's going to help you track in real time, that's going to help you write things down, that's going to help you stay on top of how you're doing in each of those categories, and then, make changes as needed.
You're right. So like the Millionaire coach said, group your expenses into categories like housing, utilities, transportation, food, and entertainment. I think it's important, like you said, to find what works best for you.
Yep.
For some people, it's going to be these freebie cash flow plan resource sheets that you can find literally all over the place on the internet. I'm sure you could go to like ChatGTP and be like, make me a budget sheet, and it would do it. We should probably do that just to see
what happens.
Now, you could also, if you don't want to do that, you could use an application, an app on your phone. You named a few. We can put some more out there online that you can use if that works best for you. Or you can create your own thing, right?
Yep.
And you can track your money through your banking and write it down in an Excel spreadsheet.
I'm learning through my coaching and, the amount of people that I work with, that it has nothing to do with the resource, with the plan that you choose. I could care less if you like writing things down, or if you like things on Excel, or if you like things on an app, or if you like
want to use
things cash. I could care less. I want you to be consistent with it. That's all that matters, because our papers that we have here, again, you could find them for free online. You could find lots of budgeting things for free online, in the App Store.
With all the pretty colors that you want.
With all the pretty colors that you want. It is not the tool that makes my coaching that I do so robust. And that's the thing. That's the secret sauce that's keeping people. No, that is definitely not what it is. What keeps what keeps us and what we're doing, and what keeps my clients winning, is the consistency of looking at it, and looking at it to understand, not just looking at it to go, oh yeah, I spent this much. Like, cool. What does that mean? Make a story out of it, understand it, and use that to help you make decisions for the future. So whatever categories you use, whatever materials, routines, whatever, just have consistency.
Right. And when you're creating these categories, it's you need to know these first few times that you're doing a budget and creating a budget, like you probably don't even know what your categories are.
Nope.
Part of the reason why I wanted to do this, mock conversation from our budget from April 2012 is so that people can hear some of the categories.
Yeah.
Because they honestly might not know what categories to have in their budget.
Yeah.
But you can look at these resources and also look at your bank account, track all of your expenses, and then just start to group them and say, okay, this would fall under the category of vehicles.
Yeah.
This would fall under the category of my house. This would fall under the category of food.
Right. A lot of times, we can go into the next one too. A lot of times my clients will do this for the first month. I'll have them do the average expense exercise where they go back the last 30 days and they will actually track and actually see where they spent their money, and they categorize it. And it's really funny because they forget. They're like, oh, I had no idea that I paid that. I had no idea that I paid that. When we go to an actual month and we're writing it down and we're like, this is the category, this is how much you should spend in this area, they start recognizing, oh, wait, I forgot this happens every quarter. Oh, wait, I forgot. You're going to shift and recreate this budget a lot of times. So that goes back to the same thing of like, keep it up, be consistent. It's not going to be like perfect the first time you do it. It's going to change and shift as you go.
Right.
Okay.
And once you've created your categories, then you're going to start allocating your funds.
Yep.
Right. Allocate your income to cover your expenses and achieve your financial goals. Be sure to prioritize your goals and cover your essential expenses first. So as you're allocating, you're saying, okay, this is my income. These are some categories that I created that I think I'm going to use. All right, it looks like $1,100 goes to rent, $17 goes to insurance. Like you're allocating your funds. $75 goes to vacation, $25 goes to entertainment. Just like we did, $100 to blow money.
Yep.
Right, like you're allocating those funds. You're saying this is where I want my money that I've earned to go.
And I try to tell people to do this before the money comes in. Don't do this after the money has already left. Don't check the money after it's already left because it's too late, right? Do it before the money comes in, and then continue to track to make sure, how am I measuring up to my original goal?
Essential expenses first.
Yes.
Hair
is not essential.
Blow money.
Not essential.
Vacation, entertainment.
Not essential.
None of that, right? I would even say eating out.
Not essential,
right? Your housing,
essential,
right? Your car to get to work and back,
essential,
right? Your insurances,
essential. I would even say internet at this point in time.
Absolutely,
it is essential. You have to use that to work or to find work or to whatever. So like there's certain things that you will find are highest priority, and you will be like, I know I need to pay that. It's essential, and it's so different for every single person, right? I have a client who has anxiety, doesn't like going to grocery stores.
Is it me?
No.
I do have anxiety.
You do have anxiety, but no. With food and has a lot of other issues when it comes to that. So I told her, I said, well, use a meal kit, use a, Every Plate or whatever, use them. And she was like, oh, I can do that. I thought that wasn't very responsible. I was like, no, it's your money. And if this is something that's causing you a lot of strife and anxiety, and it's causing you not to be in a healthy headspace, that's important. That's essential to you to have that instead of going to the grocery store. I would never force someone to do something that's outside of what they're comfortable with. So you need to find what your essentials are, and make sure that that's there. Make sure it reflects the things that are most important to you.
When you're talking with your partner, I think it'll be easy to allocate funds towards the essentials, because I think you and your partner can both agree, okay, we have to like pay for the lights because we need electricity. We have to pay for the water. We have to pay for this home or this car. Like these are essentials.
Yeah.
I think that's easy. I think the conversation gets tough when you start to allocate funds towards things that are not essential.
Yes.
When Kim, you say, well, I want my hair care to be this dollar sign. I also want my clothing to be this dollar sign.
Yep.
That's when you got to have that conversation where you might have to compromise.
I like how you did that.
And be willing to compromise and make adjustments. It's essential to work together to find the budget that works best for both of you. Not just the budget that works best for Dan, not just the budget that works best for Kim. What works best for both of you. So you might have to be willing to compromise on your hair, on your makeup, on your golfing trips, right? You might have to compromise on your video games, on your HUTV channels or your ESPN channels or your NBA League Pass or whatever it is you have, right? You might have to compromise.
Yeah. It's funny. I was actually talking to a client, and one of her goals was to get her husband on board with the finances. They both did them separately, and she has this big goal of building wealth, and they both do, but they just have never been able to be together. One of the things that helped them to start having the conversation together was to compromise and start allocating their funds to the things that's most important to them. So in the same way that you said, the essentials, you both will probably agree upon. The fixed bills, like the mortgage, electricity,
phone bill,
all that stuff, that's just, it is what it is type of thing. The other thing that they could get on cahoots with, like, I understand what you're asking for, is their kid. They were like, oh, we want to make sure their kid has money.
Absolutely.
You know, I want to make sure we pay for tuition. I want to make sure they can go on whatever. So those were the two places that they started to combine their funds. That's the start of their ascent of being able to join more of those things, right? And actually have conversations around the other stuff of the money, because they're not worried about bills being paid. They're like, oh no, bills are getting paid and the kid is taken care of. That automatically takes out a lot of stress in the conversation. And so then when they're talking about bigger things, it's much easier for them to like figure out how they can compromise on certain things. And it takes time. Like, this is a process. So yes, you must be willing to compromise for the other person. If one person likes to have more tactile, material, so they want to use cash, and the other person is like, no, I don't want to use cash at all. That drives me insane. It might be important for you to use cash to compromise and say, can we use cash for some type of category? I don't want it for all categories, but just this category would make me feel so much better. Is that something that we can compromise on? Open communication is vital in this particular spot. And yeah, oh my gosh, I already talked about this before,
right. Well, let me say this. Okay.
Yeah.
For us, if we're having this conversation and we know that we make $3,600 combined together, $1,800 every month each, and we know that our essential expenses for that first page was basically $2,400, which leaves $1,200 at the end of the month. And then our student loans is $750. So at the end of every month, after we pay student loans, there's $450 left, right? So if we're compromising, if we're trying to be equitable, $450 split that two ways, $225, right? So we each got $25 for clothing, right? You got $20 for hair care. I probably had like Xbox Live money. So we're taking that money and then we're trying to be equitable and trying to say, what are we going to allocate this to that is what's in the best interest for you and for me?
Right.
Right. So you got to find out what works best for both of you. It can't just be, well, we have $450 left. Kim, you get all of this. And then I get like $2. But
the last thing that we're going to say is monitoring your progress. That's the biggest thing, because you can say, yeah, you get $20 or you get $25 and I get $50 or whatever.
That wasn't funny.
That was, but like, you can say that you get this much and I get this much, but you have to have something to hold you accountable. That monitoring of progress, which I already talked about before, is so important. That's how this works. That's why I mean, people can say all day long that they know what they need to do. You can know all of it. You can have, I love the idea of like ignorance on fire and knowledge on ice, or I love the phrasing that I always mess up. So it could be ignorance on fire No, it is. Ignorance on
It
fire.
sounded great.
Thank you. Ignorance on fire, knowledge on ice, right? So like your knowledge can stay up there and it's just rotting. Like, yeah, that's great that you know that you need to invest, that you know you need to save, that you know exactly how to do the process. You know what you need to do. Well, good for you. That's not helping you get wealthy at all, because otherwise you would be wealthy by now. It's the doing, it's the monitoring the process. It's actually putting it to work and being willing to be ignorant in some of these things. Being willing to say, I'm putting it out there and I have no idea if this is actually correct, but I'm going to try my best to follow it, and tweaking things along the way and willing to look stupid doing it. Those are the people that are actually going to win with money, because they're willing to put themselves out there. You've got to monitor your progress, have grace for yourself as you're doing it, and continue to tweak the process as you go. If you don't, you will never, ever be able to move the needle in your finances. You'll constantly be in the same cycle over and over and over again.
Whose student loan debt was it?
Yours. But it was
So
ours.
you had nothing to do with that.
I had
It
nothing
was
to
all
do with it.
mine, but you treated it as if it was ours. So we paid that $750 every month. And in addition to that, whatever we had in excess, so I just mentioned that $450, we threw that at the student loans, right? So we would be paying $1,200 to $1,300 towards student loans every month. And that was a compromise you made, right?
Yeah.
Because you could have said, well, I'd much rather have $450, to spend on myself. $750 is your student loan, Dan. This $450, no, this is mine, because we're using $750 every month on your student loans. What do I get?
Yeah.
Right? Like if it weren't for you, there'd be $750 more in our pocket. Right? You could have easily treated it that way.
I could have.
Right? But you compromised and you said, no, we'll pay that $750 for your student loans. It's yours. It's not yours. It's ours. So my paycheck will go towards that too. And whatever we have in excess, I'm willing to make that sacrifice to
I'm
get
really
these
worth this with you.
loans gone so we can live lavishly and affluently together.
It's so crazy because it was never a thought in my mind to separate incomes. It was never a thought in my mind to...
Like, hey, the rent's $1,100, you pay $550, I'll pay $550.
It was never a thought in my mind that we would do that. It was always a thought in my mind that when I got married, it would be teamwork. And I don't know if it's because like my parents, my dad would he still only uses a spreadsheet. He's very analytical and logistical that way. But my mom does not have the conversation with him about money. They're very opposite when it comes to it. And they make it work. They've been married for 44 years. They can do whatever they need to do. It's fine. They're doing very well for themselves. But I do think, and my parents would totally agree with me, that if they had more conversations like we're having now, they probably would be,
especially earlier in their marriage.
Exactly. But they didn't have the examples around them. But the example that I saw from them was what I'm trying to get at, is that they at least had combined income, and that they were working together. It was never like, this is my money,
Right.
this is your money.
They weren't roommates.
Hey,
Venmo me $50.
Right.
I bought groceries this month.
I'm taking care of this. Why didn't you take care of that bill? That's your responsibility. I never heard that. And so for me, it was just always, oh, okay, well, I'm married. I guess this is what we got to
We're
deal with
aligned now.
We're together. So this is my debt too. Like I'm along for the ride. I never had a moment where I was like, oh, Dan brought in this additional debt. And now I'm like, no, it wasn't.
I just feel like that's selfish and immature.
It is.
I feel like a lot of people need to grow up
It is.
and grow together.
Again, this is your best friend. Now, granted, there are some people, and I know we're going to wrap up. There are some people where I'm sure they might have ran into a relationship and they might have been older. We were 22 and 23. If you are older and you're getting married and you've already like solidified yourself,
You have a nice nest egg.
you have a nice nest egg, you've been investing, you've been doing all the things to be responsible with your money, and the person that you're about to marry is not responsible with their
$76,000
finances.
in student loan debt.
And that can be a harder decision. I see that, right? So coming to the table and saying, you have how much in debt? And I am good with my money and you are choosing not to manage your money. That might be a deal breaker for some, right? But you love this person dearly. And so you really have to have these conversations we're talking about here before you put a ring on that finger and say, this is going to be it for the rest of my life. You've got to be willing to have these conversations and set the foundation for both of you that like, we've got to talk about money. I'm willing to just help you out with this because I'm willing to do it. Like, this is a sacrifice, but I need you to be all in with me. Like,
right.
Because I want to be affluent. I want to be wealthy. I want my spouse to be wealthy. I feel like this totally would have been me if I got married even at 30 something. Cause I don't know, if I had never gone through this class, who knows what I would have done, if I still would have had this fear of like all that stuff. But I just know that I like money and I like being able to go do fun things. And I know I did not like debt.
Who doesn't?
I think eventually I would have gone on this path where I'm like, I need to know where my money is going, and having somebody else come into my world and not know what their money was doing. I'd be like, oh, we need to have this conversation first before we put a ring on that finger. I need to know everything. So anyway, I'm just saying, I see that could be a conversation that needs to happen.
Absolutely. So again, as we talked about before, monitor your progress, track your spending regularly. We do this once a week, I'd say, at least I do. Once a week, I go in, I allocate everything into the Excel spreadsheet that we have from our bank account. I do that once a week just so we stay on top of it. So when we get to the end of the month, it's like mostly done.
It's already
so it's
done.
not, and if there's something that confusing that pops up, like, wait, what was this Amazon order? We can catch it right then and there. If you let that sit for 4 weeks and you go back and try to figure out what that Amazon purchase was,
You can be there
you'll
for 2
never know.
hours. Yeah.
You'll never know. So make those adjustments as needed as you're tracking to your budget, and review it together regularly and celebrate your progress.
Every single freaking win.
You know what? It's just like when you go into the news, you go on social media, it's so easy to focus on the negative.
Yeah.
It's all you ever see.
Right.
When you're doing your budgeting and you're tracking and you're talking with your spouse, it's so easy to focus on that one negative aspect. Babe, we overspent on water this month. What is wrong with us? Why
take less showers?
Your showers are like 20 minutes long. You open the door and it looks like you were hotboxing. Like there's just smoke pouring out of Kim's like, that is my dream.
Literally, I love hot
Be
showers.
in the shower for so long that the whole, like you walk in and like you can, like it's hard to breathe because there's just so much humidity in the air. That's like your happy place.
That's my happy place.
But like I could easily see if you're just focused on the negative, right?
Yeah.
How that can be problematic, right? You need to celebrate your progress together. Even if it's just like, babe, we showed up to month 2.
We showed up.
Like,
honestly,
man, month 1 sucked and it took us 3 hours, but we came back.
High five.
Like,
we showed up.
We did this thing.
We did the thing.
We tracked our numbers and they were garbage.
Yep.
But we did it together.
We did it.
Celebrate
right?
that. Why not?
Celebrate the team.
There is reason to celebrate consistency.
Yes. And that is something that you have to remember as the cornerstone of you being able to understand more about your finances. You got to celebrate.
Because I can
every
guarantee
single win.
if we went back and looked at these 8 years of budget sheets, there's some months in there.
Oh my
where
gosh.
we did terrible.
Oh yeah,
where
I
we
just
were
said,
negative,
like,
or
if
we
you,
overspent.
I think at the back of that sheet, I actually wrote down that there were some months, the first 6 months, we were up, we were down.
Just because we budgeted doesn't mean we were in the black.
No, we were in the red plenty of months. Even 2-3 years in, there were months where we were in the red and we were like, oops, we got a little excited about that over there or whatever. It is what it is.
But celebrate the progress.
And move on, right? Like, I'm glad we were here.
Progress.
I'm glad I know that it happened so that we can change the behavior and move forward.
Right, because if we didn't know and we're in the negative, we're in the red, and that keeps building, that's how you get into crazy debt. And you start falling into like the credit cards and the just endless spirals.
Yep.
No bueno.
No bueno. You gotta know where you stand. Period.
Period. With a T.
Period.
And an additional period after that T.
Yes.
Guys, remember, communication is key when creating a budget with your spouse. You have to be patient. You have to be understanding and willing to compromise with your spouse. But with practice and consistency, only you, can develop healthy spending habits. That was my...
can prevent forest fires.
Yeah, Smokey the Bear. I was like,
Only
shoot,
you
what's this guy's name?
can prevent copious amounts of debt in your marriage and relationship.
I see what you did there. You can develop healthy spending habits and achieve your financial goals together. Right? As a team.
Yep. I love it.
Man, what a good stinking episode.
I hope that you guys were with us and understood what was going on there. If you want to see pictures of our first,
they'll be on Instagram.
Budget sheets, we will put them on there.
We've got some reels to make.
We do. It's literally like a Bible of our story. And I'm so glad we've kept it for this many years because it's like a yearbook. And to go back and see our story and see where we are now, man, it's such a boost of confidence. We can literally do anything we set our minds to. Anything.
I believe that.
Anything.
Do you want to have a rental property?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Do you want to get a minivan?
Let's do it.
Want to renovate the bathroom?
Let's do it.
Want to go on a Disney cruise?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I do.
Let's freaking do
Let's
it.
do it.
I was even talking to my friends about going to France next year. Let's go.
I love it.
Let's go.
Give me a call to action.
Call to action. Y'all, can you have the conversation with your spouse? Please.
Schedule a meeting.
Schedule a meeting. And listen, schedule a meeting and just dream. We're not talking dollars. We're just talking dream.
Yeah, even for that first meeting, don't even talk dollars.
Don't even talk dollars. Ignite the dream between you and your spouse. What do you envision for your life together?
Be a dream lighter.
Be a dream lighter.
Don't be a fire extinguisher.
Don't be a dream killer. There's nothing that's off limits. Just dream. Sometimes that's an exercise in and of itself because you're so stuck in your rut that you can't even dream anymore. And when you don't dream, you're like, you're dying in your marriage. You're dying in your current situation. You're dying in your job. Don't do that to yourself. Dream again, my friend. So do me a favor. Have a conversation with a spouse. If you don't have a spouse, have a conversation with a trusted friend. Do a vision board thing and just dream. What do you want for your life?
So call to action, schedule a meeting, have that conversation, and just dream.
Just dream.
All right.
Just dream.
Thank you guys so much for sticking with us and for listening to our mock conversation and how to create that budget with your spouse. You can get more stuff like this from the Millionaire Blueprint, which you're getting because you're a part of Grand Fam.
Woohoo. I'm
So
glad you guys
get ready
are
for more juicy content like this. Guys, go live in love, walk in wealth. Take care, y'all.
Peace.